Welcome, everybody. Rick DiClemente with Astrology Unplugged. If you'd like to join us on Thursday nights Eastern at 8 o'clock, just go to my website and you'll find the link. And it's free to the first, I think, 50 or 100. The website is starself.com, STARSELF.com, and you will find the links to Astrology Unplugged, which are recorded and placed upon, uploaded onto YouTube every Friday. So the past 53 or so, 53 weeks worth, are on YouTube. Tonight's subject, we're going to talk about this phenomenal new moon that I just discovered today. And the reason I just discovered it is I'm chagrined to say is since I don't write weekly newsletters anymore or monthly newsletters, I've been losing track of where the planets are all the time, and that's to my dismay. So anyhow, I'm known anyway for following the big planets, and I oftentimes lose track of what the new moons and full moons are doing, but the one today is extremely powerful and significant. Secondly, we're going to go into Saturn returns, both your first Saturn return and your second Saturn return, and I'm also going to talk about someone's pounding on her door. Be right back. Okay. I'm also going to talk about Uranus opposite Uranus at age 42, which happens at the same time that Saturn is opposite Saturn after your first Saturn return. So we're going to talk about age 28 and age 42. Then we're going to do the chart of one of our viewers, and I've not seen her show up yet. Hopefully she will, and if she doesn't, we'll just go with the flow and do something else. So anyhow, I was looking through the ephemeris yesterday, looking through the wheel, moving things around, and I noticed the new moon was forming in Libra. And instantly, I saw right across the zodiac was sitting Uranus. And all bets are off when you see something like that. So understanding how a full moon and a new moon works is something I've written a lot about. I've got an article for you. Okay, Eric, it's fine. I'm going to give you the link to an article I wrote a long time ago, understanding the four main things about full moons and new moons, which are called lunations. Right here it is. Okay, copy, come back to you guys, go to share screen, whiteboard, and there is the link. If you want to read this article, this is about how you understand deeper about why some full moons are active, why others are not, why some are weird, some are crazy, some are different, some are romantic. This article that you see in front of you, this link, will link you directly to that newsletter from several years ago, which explains it. I will take this, and also for you listening, I will put it into the chat box, so you can get it from the chat box. All right. Now, keeping it very simple because the newsletter explains it all. A new moon is when the sun and moon are together. A full moon is when they're opposite. An eclipse is the same thing, only they're on the same latitude. So a solar eclipse is a new moon, but instead of being like this, they're lined up at the same latitude. Full moon can be a lunar eclipse because they're in the same latitude. Now, collectively, they're all called a lunation. Every lunar eclipse is preceded by or followed by a solar eclipse, or reverse. They always come in pairs, 2 weeks apart. Some of them are 3 in a row, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. So you could have a solar eclipse, a lunar, then a solar, or you can have a lunar and a solar and a lunar. Okay, it all depends on how the declination is, how high they are. So when I looked, let me show you what I came up with. This is the eclipse. This is the eclipse of, here we go. This is this is the new moon today. Do you see the sun and moon today at 26:35? Today, Eastern time, about 12 minutes after 3. 12 minutes after 3 this afternoon. The sun spends 30 days going through Libra, right here. And the moon, during those 28 days, the moon goes all the way around. Remember, in Western astrology, we cheat and we're very ego-centered, and we call this tropical zodiac geocentric. We put the Earth in the middle. So it looks like the sun is going around the Earth, and it looks like the moon is going around the Earth, and that's just how Western astrology works. So 2 weeks from now, which is 14 days from now, the sun will move 14 degrees further, which is the last 4 degrees of Libra. The sun will be at 10 degrees of Scorpio. And 14 days later, the moon will be halfway through its cycle. The moon will be here. So, the sun moves 14 degrees, the moon moves half a cycle, then you have a full moon. So that full moon will be around 10 degrees of Scorpio, 10 degrees of Taurus. So what got me was not this, because typically a new moon in Libra is not a real big deal, because Libra is not a real powerful energy. It doesn't shake things up. It's a mild energy, a mellow energy. This is why when you read my article, you'll see the first thing you got to ask yourself about the new moon or the full moon is what sign is it happening in? A Libra full moon is technically a mellow full moon, romantic, smooth, not real argumentative, very nice Libran qualities. But secondly, what planets are lined up with it? Bingo! 26 degrees right opposite is Uranus. I'm not talking about 1 degree away, 2, 3 degrees away. I'm talking about 4 minutes away. It's almost precise. This is very, very volatile because Uranus is volatile and it's sitting in Aries, which is double volatile. So this new moon, even though it's heavenly, it's exploding this Uranus. This is why you're seeing radical Uranian types of this whole thing about me too, and women are standing up and they're fighting back against the patriarch. This is what's happening. This is what's causing it. This new moon is triggering Uranus. Now let me explain this to you. All right. When a big planet, Saturn outward, is sitting somewhere, like in your chart, 26 Aries, 26 Libra, 26 Capricorn, 26 Cancer, you got the cross, the cardinal cross. You have to memorize what are the 4 cardinal signs. What are the 4 fixed signs? It's not that hard to do this. You got to see this instantly in your mind. When Uranus is sitting at 26 degrees of Aries, Uranus is spending 7 years going through a sign. It's very consistent. 7 years per sign. 84 years go all the way around. But when Uranus is at the 26th degree out of 30, it's an era. It's a long, agitated era. It doesn't come and hit you today, tomorrow it's gone. It's a period of evolution, a revolution, which is Uranian. What does Uranus do? Uranus upsets the apple cart so that we can have something new and you can breathe. Almost always Uranus is very sudden. It shakes up the status quo, and you're either flexible enough that you go with it, or you're like Puerto Rico and you get wiped out. Once that era is set up, that Uranian thing doesn't go away. It just goes underground for a while until the next trigger hits. Then it goes underground. Then the trigger hits. Then it goes underground. And on a larger scale, Pluto. Pluto's been sitting in the middle just past the middle part of Capricorn for 8 years now. It's gotten to that point. Now it's sitting in the middle of Capricorn. That's the Plutonian era. It's a 23-year, a 15-year period. Am I right, John? 2008 to 23, 15 years, yes. So when the big planet is sitting on you, that's a long-term era where you want to Uranianize where it's sitting. You might feel that the world is trying to Uranianize you, but it's not. It's coming up through you. And when Uranus is coming through you, you feel restless. You feel like you've had it to here. If you've been repressed, it's even worse. If you've been self-repressed, it's even worse. If you're pliable, it's not so bad. If it's flexible, it's not so bad. Then it's exciting. So while Uranus is sitting there, along comes the spider. Here comes the sun. Oh my God, here comes the moon. And in astrology, the triggers are Mars. Always know where Mars is. Always know where Mars is, or you shall get your butt kicked. You just will. Mars is the trigger, and he's not nice about it. The second trigger, and it's not a matter of power, just another trigger, are lunations, full moons, new moons, eclipses. So with this new moon forming, it's already hitting this sore spot. You know, picture it like this. Picture it like this. Let's just say a neighbor of yours is saying, hey, get those bushes moved. Hey, get those bushes moved. Hey, those bushes are in my way. Get those bushes moved. Hey, get those bushes moved. This keeps irritating you. And when the triggers go away, the guy kind of quiets down. And then the lunation hits, and then the guy's got a whole army over there screaming at you. The reason the planets keep persisting is not because the planet's mean or it's trying to do you in. It's because it's trying to get you back in balance. So, there's another level to this. What signs are happening in Libra? What planets are lined up with? Uranus. What aspects is it making to your natal chart? What house is it hitting in your chart? So for everybody, since it's an Aries and Libra, for everybody, this is an Aries-Libra thing. General astrology, Aries, self, Libra, self plus others. For everybody, this is a revolution now. And what does Uranus do? Am I able to be myself? If I'm not, it's going to be very common. I'm going to blame you, blame my wife, blame my boss, whatever. But the correct way to look at Uranus is, what am I doing to keep myself pushed down? So there's this tremendous urge now to bring yourself out of yourself, okay? And since Libra is involved, in other words, astrology is exquisite. You cannot change how you are until you change how you behave with other people. And it's not for their benefit, it's for your benefit. Almost everything in astrology is about your benefit. So when you change how you deal with other people, it changes who you are, and vice versa. So now, when we go to the chart and you see this chart again, here's the new moon in Libra. Here's Uranus sitting there. It's been sitting there. So if you look in your chart, everything around 26 of Aries, 26 of Libra, 26 of Capricorn and Cancer is the same old story. Only it's coming back up again. It's coming back up again. Do you think you got it solved? It's coming back up again. Why does that happen? It happens because you've still got more work to do on it. Or you've done the work, you've liberated yourself, and the perfect end-all be-all is you want to get to the state where you're able to be yourself and you're able to honor the other person in a healthy fashion. You're not losing yourself. You're not favoring them too much. You got a nice balance. That's the ultimate. Now, Blow this up to the macrocosm. This is always happening to the individual, the society, and the world at the same time. This is what's happening planet-wide. What's happening planet-wide. This certainly is, boy, we want to make America first. How do you think that's flying with a lot of people that don't want to hear that anymore? Certainly we want to be, we don't have to be first, but we don't understand that. But we sure don't want to be last. Kind of be nice to be equal. So the revolution is continuing, and if you're having trouble during this time, it's because you're having trouble allowing yourself to be yourself, whether it's from your parents, probably past life, whatever. So when you examine a new moon, a full moon, what sign it's in tells you the type of energy. That's why new moons in Aquarius and Leo are kind of fun and crazy. New moons in Cancer, you just want to stay home. New moons in Capricorn, you may not even notice. New moons in Gemini, you're very busy running around. What planet is it lined up with? So let's go back and look. So the key point here is the new moon's at 26. So you come across, boom, tight, tight, tight orb. And see, Uranus is known for being uptight. It's very tense. You can twist the rope so much more, it's going to snap. That's Uranus. So the reason I've been so worried, the Jupiter is too far beyond, Mercury's too far away, the Venus and Mars are too far away. This is mainly Sun and Moon and Uranus. My concern is this. The weak spot in Trump's chart is a 20-something, 22-something, I forget, of Cancer over here. He's got the Venus-Saturn here. And he's getting agitated. The Uranus keeps agitating the Venus-Saturn. It keeps agitating the Venus-Saturn. Why does it keep agitating? And let me show you this. I'll show you exactly why. I'm going to show you exactly how this works. This will take the mystery out of it. There are some arguments now as to what Donald Trump's birth time is, but largely it's close to 1054. There are 10, 15-minute arguments happening. But the weak spot in his chart is right here at 25 of Cancer. And there's Venus-Saturn. Well, Venus-Saturn is his center where he's always crying about nobody treats me fair and, you know, I've not been treated right and all this stuff. And he's got the Mars in Leo, which comes down and counterattacks. He's got other forces which are much more dynamic. But the secret to his chart is this fact that he feels unloved, unrespected. Now, during the last couple years, which is his rise, Uranus has been sitting here around 20, 25 of Aries, making a right angle to this. That's what's causing it. That's what's causing the fake media won't leave me alone. That's what's causing the craziness. The Uranus inside of him in an authentic way, he's trying to get past this. He's trying to get this solved. Remember, it's about I want to be myself. Well, you can't be yourself if you're running into a corner and hiding all the time because you're afraid people don't treat you right. They don't treat me good. They treat me good. They don't treat me good. They treat me good. Every sentence he says has the word treat in it. It's very Cancerian. Nothing wrong with Cancer. That's what it's about. But the problem is he's not able to, not willing, not able to. He's not able to let the Uranian energy provide the typical kind of can opener that it needs to do to unlock this. This is somebody that's just scared to death emotionally. He's scared to death emotionally. And when you're scared and you get irritated, what happens? You get more scared. In his case, he turns to the Mars and Leo and he attacks. In a perfect world, he would feel the Uranus come. He would say, boy, I've been being awful uptight. I need to kind of loosen up. I don't need to be so tense and guarded all the time. I need to realize people do love me, and I'm seeing all this illusion myself, but he's way past that. So what does Uranus do when it fails? What does Uranus do when you fail with it? Is you crack more. You splinter. The big planets, you're going to go their way, or things aren't, or you're going to get out of sync with evolution. Pluto, you either get with it, become stronger, or you get smashed. Neptune, you go with it, become refined and religious and spiritual, or you dissolve into a pile of psychosis. Uranus, you get renewed and get past all your crust, or you break. Strokes, aneurysms. Saturn, you get with it, you become more practical, or you become disabled. So that's the problem here, is the Uranus is pressing on his Venus Saturn. It's pressing on his Venus Saturn. And you don't have to know, he's got the most uptight job in the world to begin with. So I'm telling you, you may have problems with him here and there, whatever, but he really can't do anything more than he's doing. He cannot handle it. So he breaks it down into a world that he can handle, which is called Twitter. Little Gemini messages. Little ones. Boom, boom, boom. I'm not going to get lost in that. I have decided to. I'm going to do a whole session here very soon on just Trump's chart, because it's so critical what's happening. So this new moon, ultimately, look in your charts, even if you've got a big blank house, 26 Cancer, 26 wherever, draw a cross in your chart where the 26 degrees is happening, and you're seeing this continuing revolution happen. On the positive, you're not getting so uptight, you're speaking your mind more, you're asserting yourself more, you're asserting your rights more, and to the degree that you're being obnoxious about it is equal to how much you've repressed it. And to the degree that you're doing pretty good with it is the degree that you're open to change. It's that simple. So this is why you cannot fall for these incomplete astrologers that are writing about the new moon's in Libra, it's going to be peaceful and lovely. Well, it's not. Because Uranus is right there in the middle of it. And the outer planets are the bosses. The outer planets are the big boys. Okay? Now, if you've got a question or two, I will take a moment. I want to save the second half hour for Saturn returns. And then I hope our other, Crystal is here. Crystal is our guinea pig tonight. I'm glad she made it. She'll be on the third half hour. And let me get Marta's name changed here. Okay. Now, I don't want to go into a long dialogue. Elke, where's Elke? Yeah, there's Elke. Yeah, Elke, go ahead.
Just a quick question. How wide of an orb do you use for lunations?
Very good question. I use 5.
Okay, so that would affect my sun in Cancer then, at 22.
Well, let me explain to you. I've always used 5. The more sensitive the person, the wider the orb. The more volatile the planet, the wider the orb. But for instance, this is a very important thing you brought up here. Let's say you've got a major planet at 20. And let's say the lunation's at 15. The lunation will happen at 15, and you walk around, you're not feeling anything. Next day, 16, we're watching the sun. 17, 18, 19, bingo. That's when the event will happen. The sun triggers when it's 1 degree away. Mars triggers when it's 1 degree away. So that's how I've been able to give you dates 6 months ahead of time. I just put the date on Facebook, and people wait and they see, and there's no planet hitting, but
so what? The lunation is if it's at 26 and the sun is at 22, then it actually hits before that. The lunation.
Yes.
Okay.
And remember, this is really weird. Remember this. Astrology works backward.
Yes.
It works backward. It works just as accurately backward as it does forward. Yes, the secret here is you got 4 degrees of orb, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it hits, add 3 days. That's when you will get the maximum delivery punch. When in its eclipse, I use 10 days. And I've tested these for decades, so it does work. And then you might be a little bit off. I mean, the day that it's exact, you might even have very dramatic events. But actually, you'll usually have more dust flying on the day before than you will the day of. Yes.
So if it's, sorry, just to firm up,
That's
if
okay.
if it's at 22, then it's 4 days before the lunation that the event happens. Is that correct or
You're
not?
telling me there's a 4-degree difference, right?
Yes.
And I'm telling you it's the day before, so it's 3.
Oh.
It always happens 1 degree shy of.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you're
Okay.
likely to, and it's kind of like the eclipse happens and the subject gets put on the table, but 3 days later it becomes real personal. You got to deal with it, and it's always this. It's, oh doggone it, I thought I had that matter solved, and here it's poking its head again. That's what it's about.
Okay.
And that's what your symbol is. That's how you can tell you're not doing your work. Now, the beautiful thing about astrology is you don't have to solve everything today. When I work with my clients, all that matters to me, and I've seen it so much, is that they're trying. They're trying to get it together. God bless them. And when you're trying, things just start to work out. So yes, you got it exactly right, Elke. Another way of putting it is, let's say you have, let's say your moon is at, here's another truth. So let's say your moon is 2 degrees of Pisces. Now, I don't care where it is near the end of Aquarius. Something happens at the end of Aquarius. The minute that that moon crosses that line into early Pisces, it'll trigger that moon. It'll just trigger it because Pisces in water is so conductive to electrical current. So generally the rule you want is 5. And if I make my dent in your chart at 20, when it gets to 24, it will trigger something you have at 25. You get me?
Thank you.
So this one's happening at 25. Let's say you got a planet at 29. There's a 4-degree difference. You will get the punch from it when the sun goes 3 degrees. It gets to 28. Like clockwork. Okay? Now, I don't want to just lecture to you. Guys, look around at your stuff. Report back next week on what you see, and you'll see this pattern over and over. Now, thank you, Alki. I want to get to the Saturn returns. This is a big subject. I got a lot of text on this in my articles. Primarily, a Saturn return is that you're born and Saturn's at a certain spot. In 1971, somebody did my chart, and they gave me the curses of the ages because said, oh, you got a Grand Cross, and you got a Saturn return coming, and when you're 28, you better just, oh, boy. And they scared the hell out of me, of course, because they got all the power. Well, I mumbled about it to myself for about 7 years, and in 1978, I said, I'm not listening to anybody anymore. I don't like being prey to this person's prediction. So I started to study. So at age 28, I was 26 when I started. 2 years later, I knew enough astrology, and my Saturn return happened. What happened? My girlfriend says, we're getting along fine. She says, Aquarian girl, she says, you're not going anywhere as a filmmaker. Nothing's happening here. I'm out of town. She leaves. She ups and leaves and goes to Louisiana. Okay, so what do I have to do? Filmmaking's coming to an end. There aren't any desires for filmmakers unless you go to LA or go to New York. So I had to get into video, which I couldn't stand. So I changed careers. And at nighttime, I went and started studying computers. So the Saturn return stopped me in my tracks in my 9th house of education. I had to go back to school. So I did get sick during my second Saturn return, but during my first one, I was okay. The second Saturn return is very dangerous. We're going to talk a lot about it. So during the first return, pay attention what sign it's in. Mine was in the sign of Libra, like the United States. Same degree as the United States, as Saturn's 14.5 of Libra. So I had all these turning points with relationships. But what Saturn does, it's so overrated about bad. Saturn returns are usually really good. There are problems. You're going to always get extra responsibility put on your shoulders. That's just going to happen. You can't get around that. But Saturn forces you to grow up. Now, if your Saturn inside is being paid attention to, then you want to grow up. I've seen so many people, oh, what do we do with our son? He's 25 and we can't get him out of the house. He's playing video all day. What are we going to do with it? I said, just chill. Give him some time. Wait till he's 27. He'll start shocking you with this new sense of wanting to grow up, wanting to buy a car, wanting to get married, wanting to settle down. Because the Saturn is you. These planets are you. They're not foreign energies. And I've seen so many people say, well, you know, I've had it being a goof. I'm going to cut my hair and I'll get a job. And they do a lot of growing up. Now, the ones you got to be concerned about are the ones that keep goofing off and partying 29, 30, 31, 32. Now you got a problem. You got a problem. It's not that they can't grow up. You got to do your dig in and do your work, and it takes an advanced astrologer. Do they have a lot of bad signals from the parents? Do they have messages that all grown-ups do nothing but suffer? Do they have problems with the past life? It can be many things. But the problem is Saturn will stop you in your tracks. It will stop you. Mommy won't give you any more money. Daddy will take you out of the will. The freeloading will stop. But I'm going to tell you that's minor. It's most people make it through pretty good. And if you stop and do some work, think about yourself, think about your family, think about your friends, and what happened to them at 28. Now, about 9 years ago, I started to write a book called The 28-Year Itch. I wanted to write all about this in great detail. And I started to do a lot of research, and for whatever reason, it just went off the charts. And now I want to read to you some of the research I found from that time. And I took famous people, and I investigated what happened when they were 28. Berlin Wall was 28 years old when it came down. Three River Stadium was 28 years old when it came down. Johnny Carson Show, 28 years old when it stopped. Doesn't have to. It can go on for a second loop. But it's a natural perforation. It's a natural ending. Say at 26 years of marriage, you're trying to get out of it and you can't. 27 years of marriage, you can't. 28, you decide you're going to fix it, or all of a sudden the C parts and you find a natural way out, and it's kind of effortless. But a lot of people go into codependency and they ignore that 28th year, and what I'm listening for, are they 31? Are they 32? Are they 33? So when I hear of a marriage that's in trouble at age 33, I know we got problems 5 years ago. What happened at 28? So just to show you how important this maturation cycle is of 28 years, look at the following people here. And you're going to see this all through your life. Let me share this screen with you. All right, I'm going to go through kind of quickly because I have so many people. We have Hank Aaron, made it to the major leagues, age 28. Abdul-Jabbar was traded from the Minnesota team to the LA Lakers. The Buddha left home on his spiritual path. George Burns found his partner, Gracie Allen. Your life starts to come together. Ken Burns made his first documentary, The Brooklyn Bridge. Nolan Bushnell invented the first computer game. Pong, 28 years of age. The Concorde plane was retired after 28 years of flying. Joe DiMaggio left baseball to go join the Army. It always has a theme of more responsibility or status, usually. Walt Disney produced his first animated cartoon with sound, age 28. Dale Earnhardt won his first Winston Cup race. Thomas Edison established the first laboratory for research. Bobby Fischer won the world title. He was ready to win it when he was 23, 24, 25. He had so many fights with the press and with the rule committees and all that. He finally sat down, shut up, and did it the way they wanted. He became the world champion when he was 28. Roy Horn, you ever hear of Sigmund and Roy? He was the guy mauled by the lion in Las Vegas. He was 28. Stanley Kubrick, Paths to Glory, his first film with great acclaim. Emanuel Lasker, one of the greatest chess champions in history. I think he was British or German, I think. He held the title for 28 years, then he lost it. Malcolm X changed his name from Malcolm Little to Malcolm X when he was 28. Nelson Mandela was in jail for 28 years. Almost done. Mother Teresa took her religious vows when she was 28. Gary Trudeau of Doonesbury won the Pulitzer Prize. Donald Trump, you may have heard of him, he secured the building permits of this defunct Pennsylvania Central Railroad and built a convention center and made millions. Frank W. Woolworth opened up this store called Woolworths when he was 28. So it can really be a monumentally good time. The ones you got to worry about are the ones that don't want responsibility because they're going to be forced to stop it. Now, I will take a sidecar for a moment. As with all things Saturnian, and this will interest Elke, you must think about Saturnian parts of the body. The knees, the hard parts. The knees, the joints, the teeth, the bones, and the skin. Because the skin contains the body, just like Saturn has the rings around it. So, 95% of the times people worry about a Saturn return, they shouldn't. Learn from hard knocks myself. If you think about your 28th year, you may have had some knocks. But what was really knocking was the inside was knocking, saying, I can handle life. I can do it. And if you don't pay attention to it, then the outside life forces you to do it. Okay, so then before we get to age 58, Saturn goes around a second time at age 58, but halfway through, Saturn has returned at age 28. Halfway through, you're now 42, Saturn is opposite Saturn, and at the same time, Uranus is opposite Uranus. That's why 42 is so crazy. That's why you have the midlife crisis. Because you have Saturn opposite Saturn, and you have Uranus opposite Uranus. And they're both direct opposites. Saturn's about settling down. Are things working? Uranus is about, am I sowing my wild seeds? Am I able to be myself? I always use the analogy, Uranus, you get on the motorcycle, put the shades on, go on Route 66 with some young chick on the back. Okay, which is such an archetypal, stereotype way of looking at it. So in terms of Saturn, now remember Saturn goes back to 14. Its cycle is at 28. That's why the first quarter, you have the 7-year itch in the marriage. The first square, age 14, 7th, 8th grade. That's why you have such pain in 7th and 8th grade of everybody getting into their cliques, and you're in the wrong clique and you're a social outcast. Very painful time. At age 42, what happens is the opposition, Saturn opposite Saturn, The opposition is always part of the stage. This is stage theory. How well was it going when I planted my seed during my Saturn return? Because the Saturn return is the end of a cycle of 28 years and the beginning of a new one. And 14 years later, Saturn's opposite Saturn. Now you're going to see how well did I plant those bricks? How good are my foundations? And that's why during 7s and 14s and 21s in those year combinations, that's why you have these trial periods. It's just part of nature and numerology and those kind of tests. So at age 42, you're feeling the pressure of maybe not having nursed what was born at 28 properly, but you're also getting Uranus opposite Uranus. And Uranus opposite Uranus is completely different. It's, by God, am I doing any living? Am I having any fun? Am I being Rick? So that's why almost every one of you can look at 42 and see tremendous adjustment going on. Since the opposition is involved, Uranus and Uranus, and since Saturn is opposite Saturn, since the opposition is involved, it is a complete time of phenomenal change with relationships. Because in the zodiac, you have the first house versus the 7th house. So everything that's happening in age 42 is, do I want to keep this marriage going? Do I want to renew my vows? Am I getting too tight in this relationship? Am I not able to breathe? Am I cramping her style? She's yelling at me. That's why 42 is so critical. And this is when you're very likely to see people do stupid things because Uranus is very explosive. That's one of the things about Uranus. It stirs you up, and you can't stand the tension, and pop goes a weasel. So if you look at age 42 in your life, you will see what looks like sudden adjustment, but it's been boiling and boiling and boiling. And our problem is that we Americans are not aware of these cycles. They're very natural cycles. And if we were raised K through 12 to be more aware of them, we would go through these passages much more effortlessly. So wave the wand, and Saturn has gone around a second time, and it comes back whoopie-doo. The one at 57 and 58 is a dinger. It put me in the hospital with heart surgery. I almost died. The one at 57 and 58 is dangerous. It just is. I've seen a lot of people go through it fine. I really have. So don't write it down, I'm going to get sick. But boy, I got blockages, and that's what Saturn does. It creates blockages. See, the problem with Saturn is this. What you create gets formed. That's that simple. It's not God up there throwing you extra cement. You've been forming a closed heart. Well, your heart closes. You've been building walls against people. Well, the walls cave in on you. You've heard that phrase, if you frown too much, your face will get stuck in that position. That's Saturn. It crystallizes things. So at age 57 and 58, it's very significant. You've got to really watch your health. If you get to, in other words, 58 is much more dangerous in your life than 61 or 62 is. Much more dangerous to your health because of Saturn. Now remember, we're not talking about any other planets. We're talking about just Saturn. Now, you have 3 major chapters in your life. This is very true. I've tested this with thousands of people. Stage 1 is your youth, which is 0 through 28. That's when you grow up. hopefully. And we lie to people when they're 18 or 21. It's not when you grow up. You grow up at 28. 21 is when you revolt. You're in a square Uranus. The second chapter is you're responsible, white picket fence, get a mortgage, get a job, go out and pay your dues. I want to have a family. I want to settle down and do that. But I get so many clients that come to me at 58 or 59, and this is another example of Western man of how terrible we are with rites of passage. At 58, you don't feel like doing it anymore. In the old days, you would retire at 58. Not now, but at 58, you start to feel like I've paid my dues. Chapter 2 is ending. Your adult years, middle years are ending. Chapter 3 is 59 on to 84. That's you're getting prepared for your spiritual journey. Chapter 3. 1 is your youth, 2 are your middle adult years, constructive. Part 3 is for me. The kids are leaving the house. My parents had me during their Saturn return. I was born when they were 28. So when they were 58 or 57, I was 28. So they came to me and he said, we're not going to worry about you anymore. You got a place to sleep if you need it, but we're not going to stay up all night if you're gone. Just go live your life. But it happened because not a psychological decision. This is what you must understand. We think we're so damn smart and we're making all these decisions. No, it happened because a natural part of the cycle loosened my parents up. At 58, they graduated from me and my brother. You can't make this happen at 57. You can't think about this. It just happens. All of a sudden, they just loosen up. And I have these clients that are really hovering types. And all of a sudden, they say, I don't want to do it anymore. I want to live for myself a little bit. Now, you don't become an uncaring cold wall, but in general, you start to let go. And you start to realize the end of cycles are marvelous times to look back to see what you have learned. So you want to take the wisdom of your second cycle, 28 to 58, and use that as wisdom from which you build your third cycle. And when you get to 84, not many people at 84 are still lucid. And by the time you're 84, you've got 3 Saturn returns completing itself and 1 Uranus return. And then you feel totally different. And then the whole thing becomes very Uranian. And you see what Pope John Paul did. He just wanted out. He left almost exactly during his Uranus return at age 84. He was done. He was done being in this body where he couldn't do what he wanted to do. And he was such a vibrant personality. He was done. He felt finished. His life mission was done. Now, I'm surprised that Ram Dass has gone past this now. I've been watching. He's about 88 now. And he did have a stroke, but his stroke was well before 63. Maybe it was around 63. But I was surprised to see him go through his 84th year and still be in body. So the second Saturn return can be very good. The problem with the second one is by that time, you've usually abused a part of your body pretty good, whether it's your lungs or your feet. But Saturn finds your weak spots. It always makes you age. All Saturn transits of anything, you get an extra wrinkle. You just do. It's just the way Saturn is. So that's as much as I'm going to say on Saturn, and then I'm going to get to Crystal and her chart. So I'm going to change this now. We're going to get to me doing Crystal's chart, but right now I'm going to change this So if you would like to turn your microphone on, you're free to, if you have a question or comment about Saturn returns. Let's, do any of you have really significant things to report when you were 28 or 58? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
My friend is going to be going next January through his third Saturn return. He's just turned 88 and his heart is not very good. So is that usually when it worsens, or?
Well, let's just put it this way. He's already had the stressful moment, which was 84.
That's when his wife died. Yeah.
Well, a lot of times what that really means is the wife died because she knew she was no longer needed. And she wanted to free him to experience himself. But you've got to be very careful not to predict any kind of illness for him.
I don't want that. Yes, that's why I'm asking. Yes.
The main thing you got to look for is this. He's being liberated. This is to be congratulated. If a part of his body goes, okay. But a Uranus return, you should get a crown. It's a big deal. It is showing that you have survived as Rick, the unique Rick. Elke, the unique Elke. That's what Uranus is about. Uniqueness. It's about, I hate to say it, it's about what Fred Rogers said. There's nobody just like you. He's exactly right. So he needs to watch. He's got to watch his nervous system. He's got to watch. Uranus is very famous. When you have Uranus problems, you have heart irregularities.
Yes.
Uranus rules the nervous system, the wiring, the crazy heartbeat, and all that, which we all know so much about. But the main thing that your friend needs to do is to get with her own spiritual advisor. Get in sync with, where am I going? What have I been doing? How do I bring my life to an end? Because usually there's a lot of satisfaction at 84. I get to talk a lot with Liza because she comes home so many times dealing with hospice patients, and many of them are at great peace around 84. Many of them are very lucid, even though their body's not working, because there becomes a time when you're just not struggling anymore. The Uranus return is symbolic of completion of the individual, which is why it's hell on wheels when you're 42. Because at 42, I can't be myself because you're always bitching at me. I can't be myself because you're not getting the kitchen clean. I can't be myself with this boss. All this crazy stuff. Yes, Karen D., go ahead.
My father, when he hit 88,
yeah, I remember.
He really started becoming more comfortable with himself. A lot of issues that he beat himself up over, he embraced. I saw a huge, he was more open. We could talk about things and we could work them out, and he could realize I had forgiven him, for some of the things. And yes, they needed forgiveness, but I had already gotten there, and it was really a wonderful time for him.
Now, I remember you doing that, and I remember him before that. And the thing I want to tell you about that is he started to realize the naturalness of him. Because until you do that, you have all these social rules. I should be this way, and a good daddy does this, and I should do this, and why to do that. And it's just like you can see all the angles in your chart fighting with each other. During the Uranus return, this is who I am, buddy. And that's this might sound jive, I don't care. That's the really beautiful thing that Fred Rogers taught our children. That you're okay the way you are. That's a marvelous statement.
When Jim Jim is a really unique individual. He's my friend, and he is just a prize. When he turned 84, his wife passed away with Alzheimer's, and he was liberated from that.
That's right.
He ended up going and buying himself a hybrid car.
Exactly.
And he also I talked him into an iPad and an iPhone, and he learned it at 84.
Yeah.
And he's never had children. And he wasn't really worried about being alone, but here I pop up, and I was more like a daughter to him, and so he learned how to be sort of like a father figure, and it was really cool.
Comfortable in his own skin.
Yeah, it was really neat. So
well,
yeah.
Uranus is all the electronics and all that. That's a beautiful thing, and you see what we put ourselves through. And what would it be like, John, huh? If we taught these kids in grade school and in junior high that these cycles were in front of them, and if we taught these kids how to understand what their parents are going through.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Anyhow, I'm going to shift to our very patient Crystal. Thank you all very much. We're going to keep recording unless it's up to you, Crystal. I'm going to unmute you, Crystal. Crystal is a heavy-duty Gemini. It's up to you whether you want me to continue taping this or to stop it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you just fine. So do
Okay.
you want to let it roll, or do you want to stop the recording?
It depends. I mean, if you think it's important and it'll help somebody, then I don't
Oh,
really
I don't
care.
have any problems with it at all.
Okay, well then go ahead.
I want to just ask a couple questions because I'm really fascinated about this chart. I'm very eager to show you all why. Crystal, couple things. You're in what state?
I'm in Cecil, PA.
Oh, okay, near Pittsburgh. All right.
Yeah.
What do you do for a living?
Nothing right now.
Most of your life, what type of work have you done?
Sales.
Okay, sales. Are you married?
No.
Okay. Any children?
Yes. 2.
All right, okay. Let's get right to your chart. And that's fascinating. I want you to remember something, Crystal. You are getting this reading because it's time. And good old Karen S. sitting here, my good friend and student for years, she knows so much about this too. How many times we've seen people get readings right when it's critical in their chart and they're being exposed and it's time, because really what it means is you're ready. And your chart's ready, and I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on. Let me get this guy out of there and get this woman up there. There she is. Okay, you see, Sun and Gemini. She's a double Gemini. Sun and Moon in Gemini. The Moon and the Sun have not come to new Moon yet for 17 more degrees, which is 34 more hours. The Moon moves 2 degrees an hour. Is that a degree? The Moon moves 1 degree every 2 hours. So in 34 hours after her birth, she came into a new moon. So during her birth, sunrise, the sun was here in Gemini. At noon that day, the sun was here in Gemini. She was born with the sun in Gemini as the sun was setting at 8:03 at night in Idaho. So you can see Jupiter just gone below the horizon, Mercury just gone below, the moon had just gone below, the sun was setting. You couldn't see Pluto, Uranus, or Neptune. Neptune was rising, but you could see Saturn. The night she was born, the only thing you could see was that red planet Saturn. So as the sun set, you have 3 things stick out immediately. These angles are so critical. Ascendant, descendant, midheaven, nadir. Yes, she's got 5 planets in Gemini. 3 of them are in the 6th house. 1 is in the 7th. But she's got the sun right on the descendant. She's got Neptune rising by 3.5 degrees. Even though it's technically in the 12th house, this Neptune is primarily a 12th house, 1st house Neptune. And Pluto's right at the midheaven. So she is very solar or Leonine. She is very Scorpionic or Plutoine. She's very Neptunian. So she's got a lot of Gemini, a lot of Leo, a lot of Pisces, a lot of Scorpio. If these planets were here, it's different. When they're on the angles, when they're right on those angles, they're massively important. Thank God she's got Venus and Mars and Chiron and Taurus. With all this energetic, wild energy, similar to Elke's chart, she's got the strength of these Taurus planets holding her down, getting her anchored. Very, very good. Now, what do you see here? We're going to dig deeper. Here's Saturn at 13. Here's Venus at 8. Here's Uranus at 8. So she's got a very close opposition of Venus to Uranus. Now, what that means is very straightforward. Even though the Venus is anchored in Taurus, and it's there with Mars and Chiron, that Venus is nothing but anchored. Nothing like anchored, because that Venus has to answer to Uranus all the time. This is somebody who's very flirtatious. Gemini planets are the flirts of the zodiac. It doesn't mean sexually flirtatious. It can be, but it's somebody that likes to play and meet people and playful and meet people. Oh, and bring your friends and how's it going? It's just very playful. Another thing that's very common with this Venus-Mars opposite Uranus is this is somebody who gets sudden attraction. Oh, this guy's so beautiful, I gotta have him. To 3 days later, oh, he just bores me so much. These sudden changes, sudden drastic changes, which are very Geminian, and there's definitely the shadow side of Uranus. Who knows what Neptune says about it? But the Venus and Mars doesn't like it. The Venus and Mars is trying to be very anchored. Okay, you can start to see, we're just starting, and you already see quite a contest here, which is why I wanted to do this chart. And we're going to get to current day and past lives and all that. Now, Miss Crystal, what do you think so far?
It looks like a lot of inner conflict.
Well, I'm staying away from that word, but let's describe, how do you feel about it?
I think it sounds about right. I mean, I'm very hyper generally, so.
Right. A lot of people call people like you ADHD, and I don't think that's accurate. Because I've had people like Colleen's son, who's got 5 planets in Gemini, and we managed to get him into martial arts when he was very little, and he's a black belt now, so he learned to discipline his energy. Geminis just have lots of energy.
Yeah.
Yesterday I had a guy with 5 planets in Aries. I said, you're not ADHD, you've got 5 gas pedals. You got no brake, no rear view mirror, and 5 gas pedals. Go! He was like liberated. Go! Don't let people stop you. You got 5 gas pedals. Step on them. Woo! And I dug it out of him, and he said, do you know what? He was a computer operator. I said, what do you really want to be? I don't know. What do you really want to be? I don't know. Got 5 planets in Aries. I dug it out of him. He wanted to be a jet setter. Go! Go to Europe. Have 10 girlfriends. Have 3 castles. Go! Do it. So, Crystal, what I'm saying to you is we're going to dig into a lot of parts of your chart, but you're always going to be very Geminian. There ain't nothing wrong with that. Gemini is about exploring, finding out stuff, sharing, calling your friends, sharing information. The real basis of Gemini is obsession with, wow, how does the brain work? They're obsessed with how does the brain work.
Wow. Yeah, that's very accurate.
You think you got some control of this? It's got nothing to do with you. You can't change your archetypal nature. Just like Capricorns are making sure and Scorpios are digging deep, right? Geminis are exploring information. What's happening in your chart is simple now, and it's why you've been brought to me, because I am Saturn. What's happening now is the universe is saying to you, how well is that working out for you? Ain't that the most disgusting phrase that we need to get rid of? I mean, it's just everywhere. How well is that working out for you? The smart ass phrase of all time. But seriously, what's happening is this. Saturn is not only sitting on Neptune, Saturn is opposite your sun. Saturn is right here at 23 degrees. 23 degrees. Saturn's not saying, will you shut up? That's not what Saturn's saying. Saturn is saying and showing you, and I guarantee you, you're feeling this, and I can know this just from confidence and working with this. I can guarantee inside you're tired. You're tired of running. Mm-hmm. What does it get you to find out 3 new things down at the flea market and call 6 friends about it tonight? What does it get you?
Tired.
Well, it gets you tired, yes, and it's not useless. I mean, it's your main tool, yes, but Saturn's trying to say to you, this part of me is out of whack. I'm way too much this way. Because remember what Saturn's trying to do. Make things work. And in that sense, it's on your first house, and that guarantees as it goes to your first house, guarantees you're going to be getting into gymnastics right away. You're going to get into physical exercise to change your body. That's almost guaranteed when Saturn's on the first house. True, false?
I'm not really that into exercise, but I am very active. I can't do just like sitting there doing, I don't know. I don't like exercise, but I'll do.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Let me be clear. I'm talking about a desire that's very strong now to get leaner, more muscular.
I have health problems, so I'm actually like that unwillingly, actually.
Okay. All right. Well, then it gets more complex. Okay. We don't have to dig into that. And with the Neptune rising, we can see where the health issues are coming from. And I could pretty much tell you 80% of them are here. 80% of them are here because you're thinking in a way that's producing pain. The pain is real. The effects are real. But psychomatically, you can probably alleviate a lot of these things. And we would have to examine your past and find out where those restrictive pressures came from. A lot of times where Geminis keep flirting here and flirting there and flirting here is because they're trying to avoid the here and now. Because the here and now is too painful. So they flit around it. That sound familiar?
Yeah, so that's common with all Geminis?
No. The main reason you're so that way is just because you've got too much Gemini. And with your sun being right there, on the descendant, makes you very creative and very leonine and very expressive. But what I'm saying is the Saturn is here now. And Saturn being on Neptune is a whole different story than Saturn being opposite your sun. They're 2 different issues. Saturn being opposite your sun is you're starting to say, I'm not getting anywhere because I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I've got to get more disciplined with my energy. True.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, tell me how long you've been feeling this and how does it feel?
Well, it's actually not something I really want to talk about.
That's okay.
Like what I'm going through right now. I have something called glutaric acidemia, though. They just discovered a couple years ago, and it's something that only children generally have. They didn't know adults got it. And I guess I don't process proteins and fats correctly. And anyway, so it makes me really weak a lot.
Well, Saturn on Neptune is the weakness transit. I've got it myself, and if you and I would like to talk about this privately, that would be fine. You don't want to talk about it now, it's perfectly fine. Now, what I'm trying to say to you is this. You should be feeling inside of yourself an ability and a desire to start to calm down. I don't need to call 3 people about this. I don't need to call 70 people. I can maybe call 1, or maybe I won't call anybody. Because that's what your purpose in the zodiac is. Find out something and let somebody know. That's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to keep that up as you. But perhaps you can rein in some of that for a while and become a little more settled yourself. Now, the fact that Saturn is going over your Neptune at the same time, let's take a look at that. For the past year, this has gone on at least a year, Saturn's been on that Neptune. Okay? Now, the Saturn is the sober part of yourself, and the Neptune is the dreamy part of yourself. So those two have been interfacing. I did not say clashing. What that means in the past year is the degree that you have been living in a bubble is the degree of pain that you've been experiencing, because Saturn won't let you continue to live in a bubble. Saturn wants you to be realistic. So you may have had people around you say, quit living in a bubble, or you may have been saying that to yourself, I'm tired of living in a bubble. But do you understand the general feeling of that one?
Yeah, I do.
How do you report that kind of energy mix?
It's I don't know how to put it. I don't know. Everything's been kind of strange just because I don't even know how to put words to it. Can you re-ask me? Ask me in a different way.
This sobering part of you, which may appear to be coming from the outside, it's not, is telling you it's time to come out of the closet. It's time, I don't mean gayness, I'm talking about being in a closet and hiding from reality, living in castles in the sky, living in unreality, living with booze, whatever kind of escape you're doing. It's being forced to come clean now, to become solved now. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay, so kind of basically I'm at a point where my entire identity has changed. I don't know.
Exactly.
Everything is different. Relationships. I don't know my life anymore.
Okay, well, you and I definitely need a very close private reading, my opinion. But tell me basically, and you're going to see how this works. What do you mean when you say, my whole life, my whole identity's in shambles? What's that mean?
It means 13-year relationship over. Dynamics of the relationship with my children has changed. Anything I believed in spiritually is gone. I don't understand my body at all. Just everything I've ever believed is not right.
Okay, let me offer you a couple of things, and I do think we're going to need to do this privately. As a matter of fact, I'm at the point now where we can all say goodbye to our YouTubers. We've gone enough with your charge. So everybody wave bye-bye to our YouTubers, and thank you for joining us.